Hello, everybody. I'm Rebecca Comizio, a school psychologist in Connecticut, and I'm here with my colleagues and friends to talk to you tonight because all of us, educators and people who care about kids and supporting kids in this unusual time, have been thinking a lot about how we're going to do this. Tomorrow, Monday, is the first day of school for my school after spring break, and it's the first day of remote learning. And I've been hearing from educators, not only in my area of Connecticut, but all over, that this feels a little bit overwhelming. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, because when we imagine doing the exact same thing that we do in person, in relation to our students, when we imagine what that is like and all of the productivity and content and relational education that we can deliver in groups, in person with children, in a virtual world, when we try to take that same thing and make it virtual through our computer, through our rapid understanding of different digital technology platforms, it's a really tall order. And one thing that I think that we need is self-compassion. And Lynn is going to talk a lot about self-care strategies and taking care of ourselves in this moment, but it's like that metaphor from the airplane. If we adults don't put on our own oxygen masks first, we cannot take care of those in our charge. And I think in this moment, collectively as adults, we need to make sure that we are okay. And one way to do that, I think, is to really get clear with our intentions. And we've always known, some things never change, we've always known that relationships matter. The relationship in education, in our classrooms, in our work with kids and parents and other teachers is the most important thing. If we can build strong, supportive relationships, we can teach anything. I can teach social emotional learning. I can teach social skills and emotional skills, regulation skills, and psychoeducation. But without that relationship, I'm nothing more than a worksheet. And I can't teach anything that I put in a worksheet and send to someone. So we wanted to talk tonight to all of you to just help us together regulate and have a little compassion for ourselves. And Ashley, my new friend and colleague from afar, is a fourth grade teacher. And Ashley, I just want to know, what's on your mind? How are you feeling and thinking about going into this next week of remote learning practices and teaching online? And what are some of the challenges, and how are you thinking about them right now?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Ashley Ezell, and I am a fourth grade teacher in Arizona. And I have a group of actually 57 fourth graders, because the way my school works is I do all social studies and language arts. So when I think about doing distance learning and remote learning, I was really overwhelmed at first, and I still am. We are going into week 3 of doing this because it's not just grading and planning for 27 kids. I'm doing 57, and the amount of emails that flood in and trying to make sure that the students are taken care of, all their videos are uploading correctly, that they have access to the materials that they need, it can definitely be challenging. It's really trying to find that work-life balance, because at work I could leave it and not have to worry about it when I get home to take care of my 2 young children who are almost 4 and 5, and then having my husband there as well is helpful, but he's working a lot as well right now as a busy time working for Costco. So I'm just trying to figure out how to find this work-life balance, because my computer goes on about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and it doesn't go off until about 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm just trying to field those emails as fast as they come in, because if I don't and I walk away for 20, 30 minutes to help my girls and facilitate learning for them, or just be a mom in that moment, I come back to 50 emails, and then I feel farther behind, and then I had felt like a little guilty inside for like, oh my gosh, I wasn't present for my families and their needs, but then I feel guilty on the other end as a mom that I wasn't present for my girls, because they're confused and little and really not knowing what's going on right now. So it's really, I really love the wording that you use. It's showing a little bit of compassion, not just to our students and their families, but I think showing compassion and grace to us as humans and as teachers, that it's okay for us to slow down a bit and really just focus on building back stronger relationships with our kids and and really reaching out to those families of what can we do to get through these times together.
I love that. One thing I've been saying to my school psychologist colleague is that this moment in time, it's about connections, not perfection. Mm-hmm. And I hear that in what you're saying, and I so agree.
You know, it really strikes me, Rebecca, that I'm happy that Ashley still looks so well. You know, you're in week 3, you still look rested. You have been paying great attention to your children. I had heard through one of our interactions that you had been teaching them some of the skills of everyday life, which I think is brilliant. And it really what I'm thinking about is, how can we keep teachers like you remaining healthy? What can we do to practice self-care as parents and as teachers in order to keep that oxygen going, as Rebecca says? And I think that what I noticed in the teachers that I was interacting with, and even myself, is that we're focused on productivity. All of us are very hardworking teachers. We want the very best for our students. And so I found myself and some of my colleagues just getting on the productivity wheel and going too hard. We were making things, and we were having lots of conference calls, and some of my colleagues are in different countries, and so we were doing it for 16 hours a day. And all of a sudden I had this aha, like, wait a minute. What if we make the end in mind, not the standards, but that we all become better human beings, and that we raise our students and our children to be better human beings? If we're going to do that and think maybe, well, today's Sunday, what's going to happen on Monday? What's my future thinking for Monday? How am I going to really be present and caring? And what am I going to do with my students and my children that helps them have better social emotional skills, better interactive skills, and better self-care skills themselves, because the children are stressed out too. And then after I think of that time horizon, what am I going to be aiming for Friday? What am I aiming for next week? And I really would love your thoughts on this idea of applying future thinking to improve humanity and get off the productivity wheel while still making some progress. What do you guys think?
I so agree, and it's making me think right away of something that I often say to my students, that at so much of the time, in our effort to avoid discomfort, and we're all feeling rather uncomfortable right now, but in our effort to avoid discomfort, we jump into familiar patterns. And for many of us, that's productivity. Let me just get some work done. Let me make that lesson. Let me do that sheet. Let me record this thing. And when we do that, it reduces temporarily our anxiety and our discomfort, because we feel productive, and productivity is a value of ours. But in the long term, if we're using future thinking, it's not a helpful strategy, because first of all, we're not sure if the way in which we're being productive is effective at all for our students. It may not be. And secondly, we are at risk of burning ourselves out, of running out of that oxygen that we need so that we can support others. And so I think, just like you're saying, we need to think in the long term, and we need to prioritize the values that we know, the actions that bring us toward our values. We care about students, all of us too, and we care about our families too. And those two things are not in competition. They can exist together. So how do we take steps toward those two very important values, both, without sacrificing one for the other? And how do we do that in an intentional way without burning out? I think these are really big questions. I don't think the answer is the same for every person. But the other thing that you made me think of is the email, the inbox overload. Adam Grant, who's an industrial organizational psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, I follow him on social media. I think he's brilliant. He always has said, just going through your email is not a great way to prioritize, because emails come in randomly. They come in from various stakeholders. They come in from, salespeople and all kinds. And so if we just decide I'm going to go through my email by timestamp, it's not a good way to organize our work. So he has suggestions like creating folders of priorities. My personal approach to not letting email dictate my day is to set aside some time when I'll be checking that email. And, you know, then I can look more carefully at, okay, this group of emails from parents, high priority. I'm going to get to those first. This group, this seems like junk mail. I'll put that in a box to look at later, because sometimes junk mail is helpful. This group, these are from my work colleagues, admin. I'm going to do that at 2 p.m. For me, scheduling things carefully to make sure that I have room in my day is helpful. And it helps me feel less anxious about the notification. Oh my gosh, 15 emails. Oh, I'm going to do that at 2. It's on my calendar. That's just one strategy that helps me. What do you all think? Ashley, is there a way that you organize that for yourself?
You guys have made my mind kind of start spinning a little bit. I'm somebody who just likes to attack them, and then I do file them in folders using just the Gmail folders that they have, and I try to answer them on importance of somebody who needs like the immediate assistance right now, and somebody who I know is a little bit more capable of waiting a little bit longer versus somebody who might maybe need that more immediate response because they might go into that panic mode. Because I did have students last week who would be sending emails saying, I'm panicking, and that's not what we want. We don't want them panicking at home. I don't want them to send their parents into a panic, because that's not good. There's already enough anxiety right now, and then having them panic and their parents panic, and they can't see me face to face, really. I mean, there's a video chat and the conferencing that we can try, but it's not perfect in the world of teaching. But one of the things that I was thinking about is to kind of slow down this productivity and focus on the self-care as a teacher, the self-care with our kids and our families, and kind of this long-term goal to get us through May potentially, or June. Really, everything is changing so fast and we don't really know what tomorrow is going to be like, is kind of taking a step back from our curriculum maps and our standards and keep those there in our minds, but really start communicating more as educators and seeing what can we do to come together and see what is our end result for our kiddos. What do we really want our fourth graders or our first graders or our second graders to know when they leave us in May, so that they're ready for that next grade? And maybe some life skills. I know one of the things that we were doing at home last week with my girls was teaching them, a 3.5-year-old who's pretty challenging sometimes, but how to spread on peanut butter and jelly with a knife, with assistance from me, but how to spread it on and then how to cut it carefully. And then today they were helping me sweep. They're folding, you know, their version of folding, but putting away laundry carefully. Now, I'm not going to go in and reorganize their drawers because I want them to own it and be proud of it, even though I might cringe just a little bit inside, but that's okay because I'm teaching them those things. Now, as teachers, I don't know how we assign that as work and to show our bosses and be able to say, yep, I can justify my pay, because that's not really a standard, but we need to figure out some sort of balance for our kiddos and their families as well. And I think it really starts with this dialogue as educators. We need to come together somehow and talk.
I so agree. And I love that example of just from your own children, from your family, because I hear you empowering your small children to be contributors, to be valuable members of your family group. And I think if we as teachers can do that for our students, what can you add to your family today that's valuable, that helps you feel empowered and helps you feel proud of yourself, and it also is a skill, like you said, a life skill. I think these are really beyond any curriculum, and then also if you could tie it in to a piece of the curriculum, which may be just read independently for this amount of time, or spend this much time exploring this interest of yours. I think we're going to have to get a little creative with what we think of as the academic skills that we're teaching in the classroom. I love all of that. I think it sounds great.
And I think that just, you know, tonight, we don't have to have the answers. What I think we've got to do is we've got to raise awareness among the teachers who we're interacting with, and, you know, maybe teachers in a broader way, that, like you said, being productive in the ways that we think might be helping may not be helping our students most. Maybe we can take a breath, push the pause button, become reflective, start talking with one another a little bit more, generating ideas that aren't about solutions, but are more about, like you said, social emotional development, managing your energy, intensity, anxiety, and grief in the moment. Things that are a little bit beyond the standards, but certainly very important if our children are successfully going to head off to the next year of school.
Yes. And, you know,
Yes.
parents out there, if there are parents out there listening, parents aren't professional educators. So I think the skill that we can provide them is how to break down, because within everything that you're trying to teach, whether it's how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich or how to put laundry, how to get laundry from the clean, you know, clothes dryer into your bedroom, into your drawer, there's a lot of skills within there. Teachers are experts at explicit instruction, breaking down these skills, reinforcing what's going well, helping kids practice. This is what we can provide, I think, in a remote way that nobody else can. And especially given the fact that you know your students, you know who they are, you know what they're good at, you know what lights them up. That's really important. And those relationship skills that you have already developed with your students are irreplaceable. And I think if we can make our goals specific and concrete and achievable, you know, SMART goals, smart, measurable, specific, measurable, attainable, and time bound, you know, that I think can be a really invaluable thing that we can support our other teachers with, our colleagues, and our parents too, because when our expectations for our own productivity are too unrealistic, it just ends up affecting us negatively.
So it sounds like I love this. I love this self-care and SMART goals. You know, maybe one thing we do is we put this out to our community this week and we say, hey, you guys, these are the kind of the self-reflective conversations we've started to have as we've noticed that we're just working 16 hours a day. What are your thoughts? What's working for you? What goals do you have on your time horizon? And we can get everybody talking about this, and maybe we can all get back together in a week and, you know, maybe be including some other people and just see what we come to. I think that I keep telling my children, I told Rebecca this, we're going to be better, smarter, more caring, more respectful, more accepting and tolerant people when we get to the end of this. But we've got to do so, as Rebecca said from the very beginning, with thoughtful intention.
I think it's a good idea. We should check in later, because this is going to be quite the process. We're all learning as we go. We're all novices. We're all first year educators in this moment.
Right.
And that's okay, because we have each other. We're better together. We can learn from what's going well in each of our own worlds. And I feel really confident, as you do, Lynn, as you just said, that we're going to come out more resilient from this. Just tonight at dinner, I heard my daughter apologize to my son for being cranky and not so polite. So that's something I don't hear that often. I was really pleased to see that.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for joining Rebecca and I. We're so grateful, and we'll really be looking forward to hearing, you know, how this conversation, how just this thoughtful reflection impacts how you interact with your administrators and students and parents this week, and we'll talk about it in the future. Okay.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you both so very much.
Oh, thank you. Good night, Rebecca. Thanks for joining us so late, my friend.
Absolutely. Good night, everybody.
Okay. Bye, you guys.
Good night.